On a rainy night a few years ago, I had an experience that still makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I lived in a small town, a place where everyone knows everyone, and strange things rarely happen. But that night was different. I remember it vividly. The rain was coming down in sheets, and the wind was howling, making the house creak. I was home alone. My parents were out of town, and my younger sister was staying at a friend's house. It was just me, curled up on the couch with a blanket, a cup of tea, and my dog, Max, lying by my feet. I was halfway through a true crime documentary when I heard a soft knock at the front door. It was so faint, I almost thought I imagined it. Max's ears perked up, and he gave a low growl. That was unusual for him. He was normally a very friendly dog. I paused the documentary and listened, but the knocking didn't come again. After a few minutes, I shrugged it off as the wind or my imagination and went back to watching. But then I heard it again. This time, the knock was louder and more insistent. Max stood up, his hackles raised, and stared at the door. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. It was almost midnight. I hesitated, but decided to see who it was. Maybe it was a neighbor in trouble or someone who had broken down. I opened the door just a crack, keeping the chain on. There was a man standing there, drenched from the rain. He looked to be in his mid-30s, with short, dark hair and an unshaven face. His clothes were soaked, and he had a desperate look in his eyes. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said, "but my car broke down a few miles back, and my phone is dead. Can I use your phone to call for a tow?" Something about him made me uneasy, but I felt guilty leaving him out in the rain. I nodded and closed the door to undo the chain. Max was still growling, which only made me more anxious. I opened the door fully and handed the man my phone. He thanked me and stepped inside to get out of the rain. He started dialing, but as soon as he had the phone to his ear, he looked at me and smiled. Not a friendly smile, but one that sent chills down my spine. "This is a nice place you have here," he said, looking around. "You live here alone?" I lied and told him my boyfriend was upstairs sleeping, and he would be down any minute. His smile faded, and he went back to the phone call. He seemed to be talking to a towing company, giving them directions and details about his car. After he hung up, he handed me the phone and thanked me again. "Sorry for the trouble," he said. "They said they'll be here in about an hour. Mind if I wait here until then?" I didn't want him to stay, but I also didn't want to be rude. I told him he could wait on the porch, under the awning, where he'd be out of the rain. He nodded and stepped outside. I locked the door behind him and watched as he paced back and forth on the porch. Max didn't calm down. He kept growling and staring at the door. I tried to distract myself with the documentary, but I couldn't concentrate. My mind was racing, and I kept glancing at the clock. An hour passed, then an hour and a half. The man was still there. Finally, I heard a vehicle pull up, and I saw the lights of a tow truck. The man talked to the driver for a few minutes, then got into the truck and left. I let out a sigh of relief, thinking it was over. The next morning, I told my mom about the strange visitor. She gave me a worried look and told me something that made my blood run cold. A man matching the description I gave her had been arrested the night before, just a few miles from our house. He had been caught trying to break into a home, and the police found a knife and duct tape in his car. I still get chills thinking about what could have happened if I had let him stay inside. And sometimes, on rainy nights, I catch myself listening for that soft knock at the door, wondering if he's out there, waiting for another chance.